Mary Elizabeth Braddon. An introduction. Mary Elizabeth Braddon was born in London on the 4th of October 1835. At age 5 her parents separated, but her ambition to succeed was not daunted. After being privately educated, she took to acting, and the minor roles she obtained were enough to support both her and her mother. This potential career waned as soon as she began writing and secured an income from it. In 1860, she met John Maxwell, a publisher of periodicals, and moved in with him the following year. At the time, Maxwell was already married with 5 children, but his wife was confined to an Irish mental asylum. On her death, they married and she had 6 children by him. Braddon was prolific and wrote over 80 novels. Perhaps the most famous is Lady Audley's Secret in 1862, which won her both sales and a fortune as a bestseller. She also wrote a number of historical fiction novels, which again increased her reputation. She was equally prolific as a short story writer, primarily supernatural and ghost stories, all of which continue to be anthologized to this day, such is the high regard they are kept in. Braddon founded Belgravia magazine in 1866, its fare being serialised sensation novels, poems, travel narratives, and biographies, along with essays on fashion, history, and science, all lavishly illustrated. She also edited Temple Bar magazine. Mary Elizabeth Braddon died on the 4th of February 1915 and is buried in Richmond Cemetery. In this story, Colonel Benyon returns from service abroad on sick leave to find that England is very much changed. He accepts a friend's invitation to take a short recuperation at his home in Cornwall, which has lain empty for some time. The Colonel takes up the offer, but things do not go quite as planned.
Colonel Benyon's Entanglement by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. 1. Thou seest, we are not all alone unhappy. This wide and universal theatre presents more woeful pageants than the scene wherein we play in. It was late in July when Herbert Benyon, colonel of a Bengal cavalry regiment, landed at Southampton from one of the P&O steamers, home from India on sick leave. The colonel had been very ill indeed with jungle fever, very close to the shadowy boundary which divides us from that unknown country, whither we are all journeying with steady footsteps on the separate roads of life. The fresh sea breezes and idle steamboat life had done a good deal for him, but he still bore the traces of that desperate sickness. The sunburnt face was wan and haggard, and there were lines of premature age about the mouth, and dark shadows under the large, lustrous grey eyes. Those eyes of Colonel Benyon's had been wont to strike terror to the souls of defaulting soldiers, conscious of a deficiency in the way of pipe-clay, or a laxity as to drill. The grey seemed to change to black when the colonel was angry, and at such times his men were apt to say that their commanding officer looked a very devil. He was not exactly a martinet either, and was known to be as particular about the comfort and well-being of his soldiers as he was about their appearance on parade. But he was a hard master, and his men feared him. The colonel gave a sigh, that was the next thing to a groan, as the express from Southampton slackened its pace at Waterloo. He had a first-class carriage all to himself, and had littered all the seats with an accumulation of newspapers, dispatch boxes, dressing bags, and such light luggage. He had tramped to and fro the narrow space, like some restless lion in its den during that rapid journey, had taken up one newspaper after another, and tossed it aside again with an air of weariness nigh unto death. And now, at the end of his journey, during which he had seemed devoured by impatience, he groaned aloud from very heaviness of spirit. He was 39 years of age, something over 6 feet in height, broad-shouldered, strong-limbed, and, if not exactly handsome, at least distinguished-looking. His
Sample complete. Ready to continue?